Yes, students, can we start the class? So, have you identified more doubts? Yes. नहीं, मुझे समझ नहीं आया आपका क्वेश्चन क्या है. IQ अगर 45 है, IQ. सो IQ लाइक मैंने आपको एक्सप्लेन किया था. IQ स्कोर्स हम लेते हैं एक नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में, लाइक अ बेल कर्व, राइट. बेल कर्व में ये आपका एवरेज होता है. दिस एवरेज मीन्स दैट the maximum number of people are going to fall here. So this IQ point is 100, right? Then we have +1 -1 standard deviation, which means मैं ये वाला point लूँगी and this point. So here I have 90. This is not working. Here I have, this is also not working. Let me use mine. So here we have 90, here we have 110. ठीक है, ये जो IQ रेंज है ये एवरेज IQ है. Saying that most people's IQ lies in the range of 90 to 110. तो एवरेज है, आप कैसे बताएंगे? 90 to 110. ठीक है. टूवर्ड्स दिस साइड वी हैव, नाउ वी यूज 70. 90 से 70 के लिए हम क्या बोल सकते हैं? लो IQ. Right? They are people who have low IQ. The number of people with low IQ are less than the average, of course. Then we'll have people who have IQ as 50. From 50, in fact I think from 70, mental retardation starts. 70 to 50 is mild retardation. 70 to 90 आपका लो IQ है. From 17 to 50 you have mild retardation, मतलब retarded है. Then 50 to 35, 50 to 35 हमारा मॉडरेट रिटार्डेशन होगा. 35 to 20 सिवियर रिटार्डेशन. अब ये हमारा आ गया पॉइंट 20 एंड बिलो, प्रोफाउंड. So when we talk about retardation, we can say that less than 20 is, यहाँ पे लिख देती हूँ, profound. From 35 to 20 is severe. From 50 to 35 we have moderate retardation. Mild retardation is from 70 to 50, right? This is the classification for mental retardation. People who have mild retardation can hold a job, they can follow daily functions, they can do everything with proper training. People with moderate retardation will have difficulty finding a good job. They will show dysfunctions when it comes to performing daily activities like eating, walking or bathing on their own. People with mild retardation can eat, drink, bathe all by themselves. They can also hold some jobs that require low IQ. With severe, they will have severe problems with walking properly. With profound, they are extremely retarded. Now we'll come to the average group. Average is from 70 to 90. 70 to 90 will become low. ठीक है? 90 to 110 becomes average. 110 to 130 becomes high. ठीक है? ये आ गया मेरा 110 to 30 for average group. Now if I have to categorize gifted, I will just say people who are 130 above are gifted. ठीक है? There is no classification 130, 160 वगैरह. It progresses. People above 130 are gifted. कर दीजिए, ध्यान से लैपटॉप ना गिरे बस मेरा. Yes, your doubt is answered. क्या इसको क्या कॉपी में लिख लो. हाँ 35 से पहले ये आप ये रेफर कर लो. यहाँ पे क्लियरली लिखा है, थोड़ा हॉच पॉच हो गया, आप ये रेफर कर लो. ठीक है? यहाँ पे 35 में मैंने मॉडरेट लिखा हुआ है. 35 टू 50 मॉडरेट है, 20 टू 35 सिवियर है. ठीक है? हाँ, एनीबडी एल्स हैज एनी डाउट? What are you, like somebody is good in studies but they are finding difficulty in physical tasks, then maybe it is not a mental disability, rather a physical one, right? Mentally they are working fine, academically they are doing good. If they are facing certain difficulty in carrying out usual tasks, maybe the disability or is not really a mental one but a physical one then, right? Yes, any other doubts? Okay. So under characteristics of a good test, we have objectivity, validity, reliability. All of us are clear about that. She has a doubt with respect to two characteristics, which are standardized procedure and psychological tests having a distinctive feature. So when we talk about standardization of procedure, we are talking about the fact that when the individual is taking the test or when the examiner is administering the test, there has to be uniformity in terms of the responses. For example, आपके एक क्वेश्चन में मैंने आपको लाइकर्ट स्केल दे दिया बिटवीन 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. ठीक है? दूसरे क्वेश्चन में दिस वाज आइटम 1. दूसरे क्वेश्चन में मैंने 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 दे दिया. There will be a little confusion. On the other hand, if I just assign random numbers instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, I just assign random numbers. Say 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. It will again introduce some confusion. So the digit span has to be uniform for all items, and they should all the digits should be meaningful. That is one aspect. The second aspect is that all the people taking that test should have the same settings under which the test would be administered, same questions, same response skill. I can't give a response scale of 7 to this person and 5 to you. How are we going to compare the results then? Uniformity in terms of administering as well as scoring. Same instructions need to be given to all the participants. Whatever the procedure of conducting the test should be standardized across all the participants who would be taking this test. It has to remain uniformity. There has to be uniformity. Only when everything remains uniform and stable can you say that the differences between the scores of two people were due to actual differences in the variables being tested. Suppose I administer an intelligence test to you early in the morning. For others who come for evening shift, I administer the test to them at 7 p.m. after they come from a work day. Now, can I say that the only variable that was manipulated here to see the difference between two individuals was intelligence? Maybe no, fatigue, because setting was different. Now, if I am comparing groups of two people, I have to make sure that the settings is the same. And this is with respect to the examiner who is administering. With respect to the test, everything should be the same. Instructions, paper, pencil, सब कुछ same होना चाहिए, right? So these are few things that we have to keep in mind, that the procedure followed is same for everyone. Second point is a good test, psychological test will have distinctive features. It means that a good psychological test should be able to differentiate one person from the other one. The purpose of doing a personality test or an intelligence test or any psychological test is to basically see that individuals are different. There exist individual differences. So any good psychometric test should be able to differentiate performance of one person to the performance of the other person on various tasks or on various traits. So when we are able to differentiate two people on a specific variable, we can say that the psychological test has a distinctive features, because it helps us in creating a distinction between two individuals. Okay. Okay, so the formula is mental age upon chronological age into 100. This formula is for calculating IQ. Okay? So the question can also be IQ of an individual is 110. Okay? Their mental age is 30. Okay? Their chronological age is X. Can you calculate what is the chronological age? कैलकुलेट करके बताओ क्या आ रहा है. थर्टी ही आ रहा है कि 29 आ रहा है कुछ पॉइंट्स में? Okay, let me change the IQ. Let me make it 130. बताओ अब x क्या होगा? 27 आया था ना? अभी इसमें क्या आ रहा है? (23). Or I can also give you a question saying mental age is 25, chronological age is 30, calculate IQ. What does this mean? Okay. mental age is 25, chronological age is 30. Calculate the IQ and tell me what this IQ would mean. What is the IQ? 83.3. So what would this mean? What are you saying, Prachi? IQ? What does this mean for us? IQ of 83.3. I just told you. Low IQ. Retardation starts at 70. Right? 90 to 70 will be low IQ, not retardation. That is why I asked this question. ठीक है? Any other doubts? Okay, psychometric approach to intelligence. Psychometric approach to intelligence would mean आपको सारा जो intelligence के models हैं, which includes Charles Spearman's G factor and S factor. Charles Spearman's theory of G factor and S factor क्या बोलता है? That we have general mental ability, which is my G factor. This general mental intelligence determines my success and my performance in various tasks. If mental capacity or G factor is high, performance will be good. Performance would be high. Then they found that although there is a positive correlation between general mental intelligence and performance, there are also certain specific factors that can interact with the general intelligence and lead to higher performance. ठीक है, ये G जो है आपका mental intelligence है general. S factor are specific skills. Specific skills जैसे कि your mathematical, numerical, verbal है क्या visual है? Visual and spatial. So now what we are saying is that my performance or success depends upon interaction of my general mental ability and a specific skill that I happen to possess. So if I happen to be intelligent and I happen to have good spatial, skills, then my performance on tasks such as architecture would be high. I have high mental ability and my specific skill such as mathematical is also high. Together, this will enable me to be a engineer, a mathematician, develop complex algorithms, develop complex computer programs, right? So this is what G and S factor mean. One becomes a general specific intelligence, one is a general mental intelligence and the other is specific skills that you might possess. Apart from this, what is spatial? मतलब spaces के हिसाब से. Distance up. Now if I have to ask you to draw what you see here in a paper, will you be able to correctly visualize it, and in terms of your distance, depth, proportions, will it be equal to the actual picture? If you can do that, you will have high spatial ability. So apart from general and specific intelligence, you will write about Raymond Cattell's theory. No, Raymond Cattell, sorry. Yes, Raymond Cattell's crystallized and fluid intelligence. Then you will write about Thurstone's primary mental abilities, right? और कोई मॉडल्स हैं? And see तो Spearman's G factor, fluid and crystallized, and Thurstone's PMA, right? Then आपका cognitive approach है triarchic theory का, Broader Conceptualization, Multiple Intelligence by Howard Gardner. Any other questions? बुक में भी यही लिखा है ना? Big Five. Okay, before going to Big Five, I want to introduce what your practical exam is going to be like, which is going to be focused on Big Five. So, for your practical exams, you will be having MCQ questions, and I don't know whether it's good for you or bad for you. I'll be creating the questions, so they won't be very direct. All of you have been a part of 2-3 revision classes where I've already discussed various MCQ questions. So you can expect similar questions to come for your practical exams. People who have attended those classes and had clarity of thought will be able to perform well and will not face any worry. With respect to syllabus, you can get questions from personality. Questions like, you should have an overview of various personality theories. I'm not going to ask you in too much detail like what is the age when phallic state starts, but I might ask you questions like who gave id, ego, superego, or I can ask you which theorist gave the concept of personal construct. So as an overview you should be knowing this. If I talk about Gordon-Allport, which approach that Gordon-Allport have? Type approach, trait approach, psychodynamic approach or cognitive approach? Yes. So you should be able to answer such questions. Okay? So this is an overview about personality. Then you should know in detail about Big Five personality theory. Your practical was on Big Five. Therefore, a huge chunk of questions will come from those Big Five factors. I don't want you to just learn up the definitions. You need to understand well what each and every factor means. I will not be giving definitions. I will give you situational behavioral questions like, ma'am, what's your name? Sanjukta is a shy person who keeps to herself, comes to the class, listens to everything and leaves after the class gets over. What personality trait does she describe? Answer is introversion. Okay, this is an example that I am giving you, that I will not be giving definitions. I will be giving behavioral questions in which you will have to identify what was the right trait. I can also give you that a question like Prachi has a score of 40 in extraversion. What can we expect from Prachi? Just 40. I have taught you to interpret. Prachi has a score of 40 in extraversion. What can we expect from Prachi? She will come to class, interact with 2-3 friends that she has and leave for the day. She will come to class, pay attention, make notes, study well. She will come to class, socialize with people, make a lot of friends and then go back home. Or Sakshi will come and will try to explore what else extracurricular activities can she do while she comes to college. प्राची आप ही बता दो आपका है तो. D would become openness to experience. A will become 2-3 people, moderate extraversion score. 40 score in extraversion means a very high score. B, if she comes and what was B option? I also forgot. Studies would be conscientiousness. So you need to be able to see what score means what and what is their behavioral tendencies. Right? No, I would say 40 score in extraversion on your new OPI. You have interpreted your score. I have taught you to interpret your scores. Then you should be able to interpret other people's scores also, right? I've already told you 0 to 48 is the benchmark that we are using. Midpoints becomes your 24, 36, 12. According to that you plot your, right? So this can be done. I can expect this from you. Apart from that, you need to know your chapter on psychological testing very well. Because what is Big Five? A psychological test. What are the uses of a psychological test? What is validity? What is reliability? What kinds of psychological tests are these? Is Big Five personality a projective test, a self-report test, a behavioral test, or a assessment center? You should be able to identify that. Okay? Yes. Alright. What does standardization help with? If Big Five is a standardized test, what can we say about Big Five? The teacher will be able to identify the traits, or are there norms developed through, again, like questions like this you can get. Then you need to know the entire process of conducting a test, psychological test onto a participant. What are the various steps involved? First step becomes rapport formation. We call the participant inside. We'll talk to them. We'll have a brief informal conversation. What's your name? Likes, dislikes? How many family members do you have? What do you do as an occupation? Are you feeling thirsty? Are you tired? Do you want to eat something? Purpose of rapport formation is to put the participant at ease. You will now be asking the participant for some private information that he or she might not want to share with a stranger, right? The purpose is to put the participant at ease so that they are able to open up. Second step becomes informed consent. It can also be the first step depending upon you. Informed consent means that I am going to inform the participant that you are taking a part of this in this study. I will be using your data to derive certain inferences. Do you agree to it? And you will take their signature. We are informing the participant that we are conducting a psychological test on them. Very briefly describe the purpose of the test. Third step, instructions, right? We'll obviously read out the instructions that are there in the manual. Apart from that, we'll also tell the participant, please respond to the questions as honestly and candidly as possible. There are no right and wrong answers. The right answer is the one that comes first to your mind. Through all these instructions, what are we trying to do? We are trying to avoid the possibility of social desirability. Because otherwise the participant may respond in a manner in which the participant thinks that maybe this is what the researcher or the experimenter wants us to respond. Or they might respond in a politically correct manner. We want to avoid that. We want honest responses so that we can get accurate results. So to avoid social desirability, we'll give all these instructions. After instructions, what will we do? We'll administer the test. After administration, what will be the next step? Behavioral or an introspection report, which means participant will write his or her introspection report, you will write about the behavioral report. After that, what will we do? We will debrief the participant, we'll tell them, okay, you came, you took out time, this was a personality test. This personality test is based upon 5 traits. All these traits mean this, this, this. Through this personality test, I'll get to know where do you stand on each of these traits, right? So debriefing would be done. After debriefing, what is the next step? Scoring. What does scoring entail? First step of scoring, reverse scoring. Second step, assigning values to each of the responses. Third step, total score. After we get the total score, these total scores are called raw scores, right? Ideally, you should convert these raw scores into standardized scores through the use of manual. In our case, we are manual did not have properly written standardized score. Those pages were blurred. Therefore, we could not refer to this. Therefore, we calculated averages. Ideally, standardized scores and norms as prepared by manuals should be referred. They are the right things to be referred to. These averages we created for our convenience. After scoring, what will we do? We will write the interpretation and evaluation. Because scoring means nothing. That's your call, your wish. But this is the steps. So you should know these steps, the sequence of these steps. Okay. So more or less this is going to be the things that are important for your practicals and MCQ question. Now I'll take some time to explain the Big Five factor theory. Big Five factor theory was given by who? Very good. Paul Costa and McRae, he is right. Who developed NeoPI? Paul Costa and McRae. They gave the theory, they developed the measure. Alright. Big Five factor follows a framework called Ocean, popularly called Ocean, in which he tries to say that our entire personality can be described through 5 main dimensions. These 5 main dimensions includes first, openness to experiences. A person who is open to experiences is somebody who is adventurous, creative, can form insights and is open to exploring. They are open to unfamiliarity. On the other hand, somebody has low openness to experience. They like routine, they like monotony, they like being in the comfort zone. They are not very experimentative or explorative. Conservative is with respect to your belief set. No, it's not a personality trait. Conservative or progressive is your belief set about how you want to live your life. It's not a personality trait. Reason being, a person who is low on openness to experience will never expose themselves to so many variables that might instill creativity in them. Creativity बहुत बार exposure से भी आती है ना. If I try to reserve myself in my comfort zone, if I don't explore, if I don't try my hands on different activities, then my creativity will also become limited. I won't get more avenues to explore that creativity. Second is conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is a trait which focuses on hardworkingness, sincerity, organized, discipline, punctuality. Somebody who is not conscientious will be careless, carefree, will come late, will not take their work seriously. Clumsy, will miss deadlines. Extraversion, as we all know, sociable, talkative, wants to be around people, derives energy from being around people. Opposite is introversion. Introverts are shy, reserved, don't want to be with a lot of people, are comfortable with a small group of people. Then we have agreeableness. Agreeableness means people who comply to the wishes of other people easily. People who agree with them. हिंदी में हम बोलते हैं सहमति. जो ज़्यादा सहमति दिखाते हैं, people who are high on compliance. All right? हाँ जी. They are warm, they are friendly, they will agree to you. Just give them a request. No, they are not ziddi, they are not rigid. They will comply easily. They will be more likely to help you because they comply easily. They are more pro-social, helpful, etc. Then we have neuroticism. Neuroticism means emotional instability. Somebody who is hypersensitive. People who are neurotic will experience more negative emotions. They'll feel shy, reserved. Sorry, they'll feel and stress. they'll get anxious very quickly, they'll show different emotions, they can get happy very quickly and sad very quickly on trivial issues because emotionally they are unstable. On the other hand, the opposite of neuroticism is emotional stability. People who are emotionally stable can manage their emotions well, right? They will not show extreme fluctuations in their moods. Now, if I ask you about Eysenck's theory within this framework, what are those dimensions of Big Five factor that were covered by Eysenck also? So what are the three dimensions that overlap? Which are the various dimensions that overlap with Eysenck's theory? Extraversion, introversion, neuroticism. Third, recently Eysenck ने third dimension भी दिया है. That is psychoticism versus sociability. What does sociability mean? You are right. Sociability would mean care for other people, empathy for other people, which will be similar to what is opposite of sociability? Psychoticism. What does psychoticism mean? Having no care or any feelings of care towards the other person, not caring about other people. Such people tend to be hostile, angry, antisocial, can have narcissistic personality. All that they are concerned about is themselves. They don't care about others. People who care about others a lot are sociable. They tend to be agreeable. ठीक है? कोरिलेशंस बिग फाइव का आपस में कोरिलेशन पूछ रहे हो? नहीं. Yes, so there's a देखो research says that if people are extroverts, they tend to be happier, more successful. ठीक है? Well-being is higher, self-esteem is higher. So these all are correlates of extraversion. ठीक है? Within these, अगर आप बोल रहे हो कि extraversion agreeable होगा कि नहीं होगा, we can't say. Within these there is no such correlates, but there are certain predictors to each one of them. For example, somebody who is neurotic, who is emotionally stable, will show high stress, high anxiety, will experience distress more, will show will as less likely to be successful, will show less well-being, lower confidence, etc. So these become predictors. Yes, हो सकता है. Why not? You can be extroverted. You love being with people. At the same time, you are emotionally unstable. Any combination can work here. So in fact, if you read Big Five in detail about Big Five profiling, of course that's not a part of your syllabus, but there is something called Big Five profiling. उसमें आपका सारे traits का combinations भी देखा जाता है. If you are somebody who is say high on extraversion and neuroticism, if you are somebody who is extraversion and agreeable, इसके various combinations के through आपकी बहुत detailed personality assessment की जाती है through Big Five. Big Five is not as short as we think it is. It is a big range in the area of research. A lot can be done through Big Five profiling. Under personality research, if you see, almost 60% of personality research is covered, like has used Big Five model. So 60% of personality research in which they are measuring personality uses Big Five. So that is the level of impact that Big Five has in both application, academia, research, everything. Yes, any other questions? So that is a part of your statistics practical. That is not your PID practical. That is a part of statistics practical. Statistics mein you are reading, you are studying mean, median, mode, correlation, etc. So the purpose of that practical was that you already have your scores with you, right? Apply calculating mean, median, mode through using this score set. So in your statistics practical, you will get questions, but that will require you to calculate mean, median, mode, not in your PID practical. Okay. Any more questions? 2. Cognitive approach in intelligence or in personality. Anybody wants to explain Prachi? Socio-cognitive approach to personality. Come. सर अभी क्लास थोड़ी ना एक्सटेंड हो जाएगी, 5-10 मिनट एक्सटेंड होगी क्लास. बहुत कुछ है अभी. सो बेसिकली सोशो कॉग्निटिव अप्रोच में क्या होता है? इन सोशो कॉग्निटिव अप्रोच वी अज्यूम दैट आवर बिहेवियर इज डिटरमाइंड बाय एनवायरमेंटल फैक्टर्स. Students who want to leave because the class is over are requested to please leave so that I can teach students who are really wanting to learn. आप लोग प्लीज़ चले जाइए, अपना अटेंडेंस दो और जाओ प्लीज़. अटेंडेंस शीट तो दी थी मैंने, आप लो सबसे. You please leave. I don't want people who are making noise. I can't keep screaming and shouting for 3 hours every day. ये तो लास्ट क्लास है, इसमें तो बी अ लिटिल मोर रिस्पेक्टफुल, राइट? दिस इज़ माई लास्ट क्लास. एटलीस्ट एंड में तो मैम को थोड़ा खुश करके जाएं कि हम चिल्लाना ना पड़े. Right. So in socio-cognitive approach, we assume that the behavior is going to be influenced by external causes, that is environmental causes. Right? We believe in the role of environment in causing our behavior. जैसे इसने बोला follows behaviorism. Behaviorism में हमारा reinforcement and punishment आता है. Reinforce करोगे वो behavior बढ़ेगा, punish करोगे वो behavior कम होगा. बट मेन चीज़ जो हमें पढ़नी है फ्रॉम पर्सनैलिटी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू आती है 3 मेन पॉइंट दैट यू हैव टू रिमेंबर. दिस वॉज बेसिकली व्हाट सोशो कॉग्निटिव अप्रोच टॉक्स अबाउट. फर्स्ट थ्योरी इज बाय जूलियन रॉटर. ठीक है, इसमें ही टॉक्स अबाउट एक्सपेक्टेंसी एंड रीएनफोर्समेंट. ठीक है, Julian Rorter says whether we are going to engage in a behavior or act in a particular way in a given situation depends upon 2 things. First is the expectancy and second is the reinforcement. Now what is expectancy? Expectancy is your expectation or your belief set that a given effort will lead to a given outcome. If I put effort in studying for the exam, I will get the outcome that is good marks. Only when I feel that there is expectancy, which means only when I feel studying will lead to good marks will I study. If I feel studying will lead to no marks, I will not study because I am not getting the outcome. Secondly, the outcome that I am getting should be rewarding for me. मेरे पढ़ने पे अच्छे मार्क्स तो आ जाएंगे, बट अच्छे मार्क्स आने से मेरा क्या होगा? आई डोंट केयर अबाउट मार्क्स. If you don't care about marks, you will not study at the first place because this reward is not personally meaningful for you. Right? So for you to engage in a behavior, you need to want the outcome and also believe that your behavior will lead to that outcome. Understood? This is expectation and reinforcement through that was given by Julian Roters. Second thing that you will talk about is locus of control. Like I said, people have internal locus of control or they have external locus of control. There are some people who believe they can control what will happen in their lives. They are the controllers of their destiny. Everything is in their hand. They can do whatever to mend the situation. Internal locus of control. External locus of control, on the other hand, means you feel that it is the environment or all the external world that will have an impact on you. Believing it is destiny or fate that will be responsible for my life. It is luck that determines whether we get marks or not. Only when you feel that you have internal locus of control, right? Only when you feel that आपके control में है आपकी ज़िंदगी, will you behave in a way to achieve your goals. ठीक है? Third thing that we talk about is social learning. So social learning theory was given by Albert Bandura. In this theory, Bandura said that how we learn to behave depends upon how we see other people behaving and what consequences they get for their behavior. If I see somebody who comes to the class regularly, does all the work diligently, and is a regular student, and then I see that the person became very successful, achieved great height, and became a CEO eventually. I observed someone. I will learn that coming to class regularly, studying, being diligent will lead to success. Albert Bandura did a study in which he showed children different movies. Can you ask the, like, shoo the dog away? Okay, let it be. Just let the dog be. It won't do anything. So in Albert Bandura's experiment, he had 3 groups of students, like children. The first group saw a movie in which there were children playing with Bobo doll and were beating the Bobo dolls. Later when they came back, they were praised. In the second group, there were children playing with the Bobo doll, but when they came back, they were scolded. And in the third group, there were children playing with the Bobo doll happily and they were having a nice time. The children who saw them, the different kids play with the Bobo doll, started imbibing their learning from them. Those who witnessed other people beating the Bobo doll started beating the Bobo doll because they learned that this is the purpose of the doll. However, children who saw other children play with the Bobo doll nicely, played with the Bobo doll nicely. What happens, again, this is an example that I am giving you, what happens if there's a person who is making a lot of noise and I scold that person in front of you? You are going to learn that the outcome of this behavior is negative in nature. and you are less likely to do that behavior. On the other hand, if Prachi explains concepts beautifully and I praise her that you have done a very good job, you will learn that explaining concepts elaborately is a good thing and you will try to incorporate that. That is what social learning says, that whatever we observe, we tend to imbibe it as a part of our behavioral pattern. ठीक है, ये तीनों चीज़ें आपकी आती है अंडर योर सोशो कॉग्निटिव अप्रोच. इसके अलावा फोर्थ चीज़ जो आता है वो है कॉग्निटिव अफेक्टिव पर्सनालिटी सिस्टम. उसको बोलते हैं कैप्स, कॉग्निटिव अफेक्टिव पर्सनालिटी सिस्टम. कैप्स बोलता है कि इट इज़ द एनवायरनमेंट दैट इन्फ्लुएंसेस आवर बिहेवियर and there are 5 main factors that directly influences our behavior along with the interaction between these 5 factors, which means this is your behavior. If this is your behavior B, so we have 1 factor, 2 factor, 3 factor, 4 factor, 5 factor influencing the behavior along with the interactions between these factors. You can join. I'm just wrapping up, then we'll start the practical. Okay, and what are these 5 factors then? First factor is your expectations and beliefs. आप अपने आप से एक्सपेक्ट क्या करते हैं और आप अपना क्या वर्ल्ड व्यू रखते हैं. अगर आप महात्मा गांधी की तरह नॉन वायलेंस में बिलीव करते हैं तो आपका बिहेवियर भी नॉन वायलेंट रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा. इफ़ आई फील दैट फॉर मी माई बिलीव सेट इज दैट यू शुड बी considerate and warm and compassionate to people, it will get reflected in my behavior. If I have expectation that I have to be a very successful researcher, then my behavior would make me more conscientious. It will become a part of my personality. So your expectations and your beliefs will influence your behavior. That is the first factor. Second thing that influences your behavior is your goals and values. आपकी लाइफ में आपका क्या गोल है, क्या वैल्यू है, ठीक है, वो भी डिटरमाइन करेगा आप कैसे बिहेव करेंगे. आपका गोल है मुझे अच्छे मार्क्स लाने हैं, तो आपका बिहेवियर क्या होगा, आप रोज़ क्लास में आएंगे, बिकॉज दैट विल हेल्प यू मीट योर गोल. ठीक है, इसके अलावा क्या है हमारे पास, एनकोडिंग एंड पर्सनल कंस्ट्रक्ट. तो जैसे हमारे फिनोमेनोलॉजिकल अप्रोच बोलती है कि जो भी एक्सपीरियंसेस होते हैं हम उस एक्सपीरियंस से अपना एक वर्ल्ड व्यू बनाते हैं और अपना उस वर्ल्ड व्यू को हम बोलते हैं पर्सनल कंस्ट्रक्ट. उस वर्ल्ड व्यू के थ्रू हम मेंटली सारे एक्सपीरियंसेस को स्टोर करते हैं. सो वी आर एनकोडिंग एंड डेवलपिंग अ पर्सनल कंस्ट्रक्ट. नाउ दिस वर्ल्ड व्यू दैट आई हैव, this personal construct that I have developed for myself will determine my behavior. If I have a world view that this world is a very cruel place, it is a very competitive place, right? And the only way to be successful is by aggressively climbing a ladder and pushing other people. This is your world view. Encode कर लिया, ये आपके बिहेवियर को इम्पैक्ट करेगा नेगेटिवली, राइट. what all are other factors that affect your behavior? Your affect, the emotions that you are experiencing. If you are a positive person who experiences positive emotions, you are likely to behave in more positive manner. If your affects usually tend to be negative, your behavior will be in line with them. आप अगर anxious हो गए, बहुत stressed हो, तो आपका behavior में क्या आएगा, shaking of hands, inability to perform well because of state of anxiety. If you feel confident, if you feel excited, it will reflect in your behavior and personality. Last thing is your competencies and self-regulation. If somebody is able to self-regulate themselves well, self-regulation अच्छी हो, अपने emotions manage कर सके, अपने आप को manage कर सके, then they will be able to adjust better with a variety of situations. And better adjustment among variety of situations will then help you with your behavior and personality. This is CAPS model. With this, your section on socio-cognitive approach is complete. अब मैं ना आपको 10 मिनट में 1 घंटे की क्लास तो नहीं समझा सकती। बुक खोलो और देखो, ओवरव्यू मैंने आपको अच्छे से दे दिया है डिटेल में मेन थ्योरीज का। आई ऑल्सो हैव टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट, दिस इज अ रिविजन क्लास, एक क्लास के लिए, पर इफ यू वांट मैं रेसिप्रोकल डिटर्मिनेशन समझा देती हूँ आपको। Reciprocal determinism says that a person का environment और person का behavior, ये सब चीजें एक दूसरे को इफेक्ट करेगा। हाँ, which means it is bi-directional. Basically your personality will have an impact on your environment. Your environment will have an impact on your behavior. Your behavior will have an impact on the environment. Environment will have an impact on your personality. So everything influences everything. This is reciprocal determinism. कि what determines what? Is it my personality that is determining my behavior? क्या जिस तरह मैं behave करती हूँ is going to determine my personality. If I consistently start displaying positive emotions to other people, start smiling at other people, I'll start thinking of myself as a happy person. I'll change the environment, people around me will become happier. The sheer change in my behavior, displaying smiles to people and happiness to people can change my environment where people are happy around me and can change my personality or my affect. समझे? बस यहाँ पे पर्सन में पर्सनालिटी नहीं बोलूँगी, मैं इसे affect बोल सकती हूँ. Personality is stable, it shouldn't just change by anything. अब आप क्या बोल रहे हो, पर्सनालिटी एंड कॉग्निशन में क्या फ़र्क है? कैसे? affect भी कह सकते हो, कॉग्निशन भी कह सकते हो. Okay, so all the very best for your exams, both